All right, what's going on, guys? Coming back with another video for you guys today, and today's going to be one of those we just focus on one thing, and that is going to be the 2021 schedules for each of our teams. So the way we're going to go down is we're going to go week by week, and we'll put both games for each of our teams in, and we don't have to worry about us playing each other until week 15.
Week 15.
So we got a while, but we'll jump right into it. We're not going to do preseason because preseason doesn't really matter, but we'll start off, and I'll let you go first with Washington's week 1 matchup.
Week 1, we will be facing the Los Angeles Chargers. I believe that this is going to be a win for us, mainly for the fact that, yes, they have Justin Herbert, but there's still a developing team, and I don't believe that their offensive line is going to be able to withstand our defensive line, and I think we'll be able to get to Justin Herbert enough so that will affect him, and we'll be able to keep their points down and just let the offense do good enough. So I think it'd be a win for us.
For week 1 for the Eagles, we're playing the Falcons in Atlanta, and I think this game is a toss-up. I think this could go either way realistically because the Falcons have a really good team. They just don't play like they have a really good team. I mean, Matt Ryan is still a really good quarterback in the league. Julio Jones is a top 3 receiver in the league for me. Calvin Ridley, they just added Kyle Pitts. And I think this game is going to be a very offensive game because looking at the Eagles team, they have, with Devonta Smith and the way that their wide receivers played last year, I think they have more offensive weapons than they do defensive weapons. And I think the receiving core of Atlanta will hurt us. And I think they're going to be passing a lot, being that they don't have a starting running back. Their starting running back is Mike Davis. And so I don't see him doing much, but I still think that Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts will be able to dot up the Eagles secondary enough. I'm going to chalk week 1 down as a loss because I just don't see, especially in Atlanta, I don't see us being able to pull that one out with an unknown starting quarterback right now. And this will be just coming out of preseason and coming off of a terrible season. So I'm going to start us out with a loss.
So for week 2, Washington is going to be facing the New York Giants on Thursday night. And what I find difficult about this game is we're going from a Sunday night to a Thursday night game, which could affect us. And it's against a team, the Giants, which last year we dropped 2 games to, but I think those were circumstantial. This is a very difficult game to judge. Yes, I believe we have the better team, but we're going to be coming off of both teams will be coming off of short days rest. But I say Fitzpatrick shows out in this game, and I don't think the Giants' defense really is all that, especially their secondary. So I say we get the W in week 2.
The Eagles have San Fran in Philly in week 2, and I think this is another toss-up. I think their first 3 games are all winnable games if they really wanted to. So week 2, I say this is a winnable game, and I think with the amount of injuries that San Fran had last year, not that the Eagles were much better injuries-wise, but I think with the amount of injuries, the fact that I think they'll be coming off of a loss in Atlanta, hungry for their first win in the season with Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts will be the starter, although it's not definite. I think Jalen Hurts will be the starter. He'll be going for his first win, and I think we'll beat San Fran in back-to-back seasons. I think it'll be a close game overall, but I still think we'll beat San Fran.
All right, week 3 for Washington, we face the Buffalo Bills, and I don't think we're going to win this. The Buffalo Bills are just insane. They're an extremely well-rounded team, and yes, I think it'll be a close game because I think our secondary will be able to do well enough to be able to keep us in it, but I don't think we're as good of a team as the Buffalo Bills, and I think Josh Allen will have some key throws that are really going to burn us down on the stretch. So I think that's a loss.
Hang on one sec. Just. All right, can you hear me? Oh wait, can you hear me?
Mm.
I just wanted to switch Wi-Fi before it started getting all wonky. So week 3, Philly plays in Dallas against the Cowboys. This is another toss-up. This is part of those first 3 weeks that I think are going to be really iffy. And I think out of both games, it'll come down to what the circumstances in the final week. But out of both games, I think this one would be the more winnable one. But I still don't think we'll be able to pull it out in Dallas with Dak coming back. And I mean, their wide receivers are insane. And the downfall of the Eagles this season, unless they pull out a big move, they just traded for one of the corners out of Jacksonville. I need to double check on his name, and I'll do that while you're going over the Washington next pick. But unless we make a really big move for a corner, I don't see us winning this game because I just see us getting burnt like we did in the game against them last season towards the end of the season. So I think this is going to be another loss. And in our first 3 games with 3 winnable games, I think we're going to be starting out 1-2 unless we really thrill in the first 3 games. And that is one of our two primetime games. So I think that Dallas has the upper hand on us.
Yeah, this next upcoming game for Washington is really going to be a test for our defenses against the Falcons, but I think we'll win this game for the fact that we have more of an offense than the Falcons do of a defense. I think we'll be able to slow down the Falcons enough, because I think the one part of the Falcons offense that isn't exactly up to par is the offensive line. And considering all the different pieces we have, I think our secondary will be able to cope enough with that great receiving core. And I think people like Antonio Gibson will be the key to winning that game.
Going into week 4, it was Josiah Scott from the Jaguars. We sent Jamison Houston, a 2023 6th-round pick, to the Jags, a 5'9", 185-pound corner. They keep on picking up the small guys, which I don't really know how that's going to fare for us in the season. But going into week 4, having said that, picking up Josiah Scott, I still don't think that'll be enough to help our secondary. And we're going to get smoked by the Chiefs. I think you just have to say, yeah, we're playing the Chiefs, even though it's in Philadelphia. I think you can chalk that one down as an L easily.
Yeah, and the next game for Washington is against New Orleans. Now, if this was a few years ago, then I think we'd be kind of worried about this, but
this was last year.
We're going to win. Yeah. I think we're going to win this game because they no longer have Drew Brees, and they don't really seem like a threat. Like, outside of Marshawn Lattimore, who do they have on their defense? And outside,
they have a pretty good defensive line.
Yeah, but one of our best parts of our offense is we have a great offensive line with depth. Even though we did just release Morgan Moses, we've been able to look at our stats last year, Tristan. We had a very good offensive line. We had I think most of the season we had one of the top 10 in the league. But if you look at our linebackers, whether it's Cole Holcomb, Jermaine Davis, or John Bostic, they are great run defense linebackers. And if you look at our defensive tackles, Josh Allen and Deron Payne, they are great run guys as well. And that, even last year, their entire offense was pretty much Alvin Kamara, and I think we'll be able to almost neutralize him. And after that, I'm not sure they have enough weapons to be able to beat us.
So having said that, and I just want to play devil's advocate for a second here, one of the biggest threats of Alvin Kamara is the fact that he can come out of the backfield and catch passes too. And then also they have Michael Thomas. I don't know
boy,
if that'll.
if he's
Yeah,
not,
slant boy.
but the thing about Alvin Kamara coming out of the back, we have a fast linebacker to be able to track him, and we also, if we really need to, we can send one of our defensive ends outside because they're both fast enough to be able to keep up with Alvin Kamara. It's not like they're slow and like big guys; they can keep up with them.
I just wanted to see what your take on that was. The next week 5, we are in Carolina. And I think this one is also a top toss-up. And I think this depends on a couple things. One, how does J.C. Horn play going up to week 5? And 2, another big thing, how does Sam Darnold play going up into week 5? So I think if Sam Darnold can make the best of his receivers, or lack thereof, shall I say, then I think they can beat us. But I think the fact that they don't really have receivers and they have to really focus the offense through Christian McCaffrey, I think we can pull this one out as a win. I think it'll be a close game, but I still think we can pull this game out just because of the fact that they don't really have many wide receivers, if any top name receivers. They have Robbie Anderson, who can get over the top, reuniting with Sam Darnold, but I still don't think it'll be enough, and they'll have to focus everything through Christian McCaffrey. So I think we'll be able to chalk up a dub against Carolina.
Now, week 6 for Washington. I think this is going to be a good day for our defense. I don't think we'll win, but I think we'll be able to keep the game close, and I think we'll kind of show the league that we're able to contend with these super high-powered offenses. Yes, I do think Patrick Mahomes is going to be able to possibly get a few deep balls into Tyreek Hill, but I think we'll be able to make it close enough, like an interesting game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I don't think we're going to win this game. It's the Chiefs.
The way you were talking there for a sec, I thought you were saying you were going to win. I was like, excuse you? Really?
It's going to be close, but I can't see us winning that.
I do not see any team in the NFC East putting up a good game against the Chiefs.
If it's going to be anybody, it's going to be us yet. But they did just add some pieces to their offensive line, but I still don't think it's great, and I think that's going to be the possible key to keeping that game close. Is if you're able to do what the Buccaneers were able to do against Patrick Mahomes, they've shown that there's chinks in that armor.
Week 6, we play in our second primetime game, and unless something shocking happens, we're going to lose. We're playing Tampa Bay, former Super Bowl champs. Unless something shocking happens, it is in Philly, and Philly is a great place to play for the Eagles. You can tell the difference in the way they play in Philly versus anywhere else, but it's Tampa Bay. Their defense is insane. Their offense, their receivers are insane. We're going to get burnt over the top. Our corners are weak. This one's going to be a loss.
Week 7 for us is Green Bay. Now this is a difficult situation for me. Now, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't show up to camp or doesn't play for them, I think we're going to beat them. They wouldn't have the necessary weapons to be able to beat us. Yes, their defense is good, but you still need offensive output to be able to make that defensive stops worth something. But if they do have Aaron Rodgers, I think they're going to beat us. If they don't, I can't see them beating us. So this is just a question of if I think Aaron Rodgers will be with the team by week 7. And I don't think he will be. I think he's done with that franchise. I cannot see them doing anything to be able to regain his trust, especially with the things like drafting Jordan Love and drafting the cornerback, I believe it was this past draft in the first round. So I say we're going to beat an Aaron Rodgers-less Green Bay Packers.
Week 7, we are in Las Vegas in the new stadium. And I think these next 5 games coming up here are all toss-up games. I'd say the next 6 games actually, I think are all going to be close games. This first one going to Las Vegas, and with this one, I think it could go either way. I think it'll be a close game, but when it comes down to it, I look at the Raiders offense and they have 3 key pieces. They have Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller, and Henry Ruggs. I think you have our defense, our run defense is pretty solid. Our defensive line is solid still. I think that can help shut down Josh Jacobs. Our Henry Ruggs can be shut down by Darius Slay, and Darren Waller, if we can just contain him a little bit, like I don't think we will, but if we can just contain him a little bit, like last year when we played San Fran, we couldn't contain. George Kittle had 15 receptions and I want to say 115 yards and a touchdown. He went off against us, but we still won. I think that'll be the same thing that as long as we can contain the most of their offensive weapons and just leave one that can go off, then I think we will be able to win this game in the end and beat Vegas.
But one thing you're forgetting about Vegas is they have an insane offensive line. Yes, you're building up your defensive line, but if you're matching your defensive line up against Vegas's offensive line, I'll find it very hard to be able to say that you'd be able to completely neutralize Josh Jacobs.
And that's going to be the one thing that'll because our defensive
linebackers, I don't think will be able to pick up any slack left over by your defensive line.
Our linebackers, yes, our linebackers, and that's why I think this is going to be a close game and a questionable game. But also, Derek Carr has been questionable since his injury. So, I mean, Derek Carr isn't that great of a quarterback. I mean, I think he's underrated a little bit, but he's not in the greatest mental spot right now to be an NFL starter. He's streaky. There was questions if he was even going to have a job last season. So, I mean, you also got to look at the quarterback play along with everything else. And our defensive line is going to be young, but I mean, Fletcher Cox is still a Pro Bowler. Brandon Graham is coming off of his first Pro Bowl year, and he went off last season. And we have a lot of young guys, but I think it'll be slightly edged, and I think we can win this game.
Week 8 for Washington. This should be an easy game. You're facing Denver. They don't have their quarterbacks. I really question. Their defense is old. Like outside of Von Miller, you can't really think of a player that's on that defense. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be able to throw the ball all over them, and I can't see them generating any surmountable offense against our defense.
Week 8, we have Detroit. In Detroit is not a very good franchise. I don't see them having enough weapons to be able to beat us. Darius Slay's returned to Detroit too, so but I don't think that Detroit will be able to overtake us. They have DeAndre Swift, and that's about it. So I think
Jared Goff and Penei Sewell.
That is a single bright spot on a
Jared Goff.
Awful offensive line.
He took the team to the Super Bowl one year.
Jared Goff is not going to help the Lions at all. Like they traded. I think Matthew Stafford has been one of the most underrated quarterbacks for the past 5-7 years, and he's just been on such a bad team that he couldn't do anything. But he's been a really good player.
He's like a modern day Archie Manning, because Archie Manning was on the Saints in the 70s and 80s when they were terrible. That's when the name the Aints was dubbed. So I think he's a modern day Archie.
But I still don't think Jared Goff will be enough. I don't think DeAndre Swift will be enough to beat the Eagles. I have us winning 2 in a row for, I believe, the first time. Yeah, 2 in a row for the first time in the season and beating Detroit. To be 4-4 after 8 weeks, that's a little bit of that's a hope. That's just a little bit of wishful thinking, but I think it could happen.
Yeah, week 10, week 9, we have a bye, so I'm just gonna
Well, here week 9 we play Denver. In Denver, this is another game like Carolina where it's kind of a toss-up and you just have to focus on who they have as weapons. And I mean, KJ Hamler is super speedy, really good player, second rounder out of Penn State. But I think their quarterback is still a little shaky. It'll depend on how Teddy Bridgewater is doing. They do have Patrick Surtain in the secondary, but trying to think of it, I can't really think of anyone. Their wide receivers aren't. Cortland Sutton will be back, so their wide receivers look to be their bright spot, but I don't really think that they have too many big. Oh, I've been going over the wrong one here. We're playing the Chargers in week 9. I apologize. Well, I'll go back to Denver when we get to week 10. So yeah, week 9, we're playing the Chargers, and that one I'm going to chalk up for a loss. Justin Herbert is a monster. Keenan Allen can move around quickly enough to get open, even if the Chargers don't have that great of a defensive line. Justin Herbert can move around. I think this one's going to be a loss.
Week 10 for us, we're facing the defending champions, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think it'll be a similar game to our wild card matchup. I think it'll be a very close, very great game, but I don't think we're going to get the win.
Yeah. Week 10, back to what I was saying about Denver. Their team's a little shaky. Their quarterback's a little bit shaky. They have decent wide receivers in KJ Hamler and Cortland Sutton. And but I don't see that they have enough weapons. I think this one will be another toss-up close game, and it'll just depend on how the quarterback is doing through the season and how the rest of the team is playing through the season. So right now, I'm going to put this one as a win, and we'll see as we're going along if that changes. So right now, we're still 500, which, again, I think is being a little hopeful. And I'll explain my thinking with how I think the season will work for the Eagles being hopeful. So who does Washington have for week 11?
We've played the Carolina Panthers, and yes, we did lose to them last year, but we did have Haskins in for the first part of that game, but I think this is going to be a win. Carolina, yes, they got Sam Darnold, but they have Christian McCaffrey, but like I said with Alvin Kamara, who they are both very similar players, great runners. They could also go out, but we have faster linebackers, and I think our defensive ends are faster than Christian McCaffrey as well. You just got to be able to contain him enough. And like we took one of their only receivers, Curtis Samuel. I just can't see them beating us.
Yeah. Week 11 is where we are. The Eagles have the Saints, and I think this is another toss-up game because of the fact that the Saints were one of the teams who were absolutely diminished with the cap being lowered. And I mean, couple years ago when we played the Saints, Traquan Smith absolutely popped off. We were able to contain Michael Thomas, but Traquan Smith destroyed us. They don't have Drew Brees, but they've showed that even without Drew Brees, Teddy Bridgewater went 7-0 without him. Taysom Hill had one loss while he was a starter last season while Drew Brees was out against the Eagles. But I don't see the Saints coming in to Philly, allowing what happened last season to happen again this season. Although I think the Jalen Hurts will be a little more stable, I think the Saints will somehow pull off a win here and beat the Eagles. I think it'll be another close game and another toss-up, but I think the Saints have this one over the Eagles.
Week 12, I think this is going to be our closest game of the year. It's a Monday night against the Seattle Seahawks, and we have always seemed to have very close games against the Seahawks. We match up very good. They have a great offense and a decent defense. We have a great defense and a decent offense. So I think because they have the experience that they'll be able to win out. They've been there. Yes, like some of the players are different, but if you look at the main core, Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll, I think that experience will be able to win out in a very close game. So that's a loss for Washington.
Week 12, we are going into New York and playing the Giants. And since we're in New York, I think that the Giants will, as long as Saquon stays healthy, as he's proved he's had a little bit of trouble there, if Saquon stays healthy and Daniel Jones plays mediocre at best, I think the Giants will be able to pull this one out because I do think they have I think this whole division is a toss-up because of the fact that they're all good and bad at the exact same time in different areas. Like, I'm not saying the Eagles are good. I'm not saying that Cowboys are good. Like, they're all decent in certain areas, and the fact that this division is so bad, it could go any way. But I think the Giants will be able to pull this one out over the Eagles. Week 13, who does Washington have?
We are going to Vegas to play the Raiders. I think this is going to be a win for us. I think we have the secondary to be able to shut down Henry Ruggs. I think we have the linebackers and defensive front to be able to slow down Josh Jacobs, and their defense. Yes, it's not bad, but I don't think it'll be able to slow down Antonio Gibson or J.D. McKissick or Logan Thomas or Terry McLaurin enough to be able to beat us. So I have us winning in Vegas.
Week 13, I think we can chalk this one up for a win. We're playing the Jets. Barring a surprise, I don't think the Jets will win this, even with Zach Wilson. I don't think they have enough offensive weapons around Zach Wilson to help anything. I can't even name their number one receiver right now. So yeah, I do not. Their running backs, their starting running back last year was Frank Gore. So I don't see this. I don't see anything happening here. I think we'll beat the Jets.
If you were to lose, you should just quit the rest of the season.
I mean, in our last 4 games, I only have us winning 1. So
yeah, we are coming up against Dallas. This is like the run of 5 division games in a row before the end of the season. And the first one is Dallas. I think we'll be able to beat Dallas. I question their offensive line considering yet the pieces that they still have are old and have seemed to be able to struggle with their health. And if you look at Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, they have struggled significantly not being able to run behind that great offensive line. Yes, Dak is going to be back and healthy, and their wide receivers are he is able to make them, I think, a lot better than they actually are. But I think our defensive line pressure in our secondary is going to be able to slow them down enough, and their defense is woeful. Look at what Antonio Gibson did against them last year.
He was great for my fantasy team that week. And on Thanksgiving, he had 40 fantasy points. Man, I was so happy.
And now that we're going to have Ryan Fitzpatrick in the backfield, who's going to be able to throw some deep bombs, I can see this is going to be a win for us.
Okay, I have to say before we continue, this week is a bye week for the Eagles, week 14, so you'll just go into the next one. But I have to say, you have a unsettling optimism about the way that Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to play. We're
going to be playing behind a good offensive line with a decent wide receiver core, and
I do not see Ryan Fitzpatrick is usually good for about 5 weeks.
But Tristan, even if he needs to, he can just throw to Antonio Gibson in the backfield.
Who's your backup quarterback?
Pick one. You can either have
I think
Kyle Allen or Taylor Heineke.
I think Heineke will be starting by week 6.
And even if he's in, even if he's able to do half of what he was able to do in that playoff game, we'll be fine. If you look at all the games we lost last year with Haskins, it's literally just because of Haskins. If he didn't throw all the picks and if he was a competent quarterback, we would have won both of the Giants, one of the Giants games. We would have won that Carolina game. If you look at it last year, almost all the games we lost have been because of the offense, not the defense.
Also, I think you're when you guys play the Cowboys for that first week, I wouldn't even say that the Cowboys' deep offensive line is great anymore because
Yeah,
Travis Frederick has retired. Like Tyron Smith is constantly injured. I don't think that
that's the
Cowboys'
one
offensive
piece we're
line
talking about.
is half of what it was. Ezekiel Elliott led the leagues in fumbles after a single game. He had, I want to say, 5 fumbles in a single game.
And
So
considering Dak is going to be coming off a bad ankle injury, it's not like he's going to be able to move around a lot. And even if he could, do you honestly think he could be able to outrun Sweat and Chase Young? And even if he's able to get past them, you have these great big guys who are really good at shutting down runs, and Deron Payne and Josh Allen. So the Cowboys, I think people think they're a lot better because, like, people were writing off last season just because of Dak Prescott. Yes, he made them a lot better, but if you look at it, they still had a bad record. Their defense is still terrible. Yes, they added Micah Parsons, but they have no secondary or defensive line.
who does Washington play week 15? Week 14, we have a bye.
Week 15, we play the Philadelphia Eagles, and
Oh,
this is
yeah.
going to be a win for us. You know it is. We are going to win.
If okay, I think this is another situational one, and I think it'll be situational in the fact that it'll depend on one, what the record is going into the game, who the Washington quarterback will be, and how, like, just overall how the Eagles have been playing against that from like week, I want to say this is week 7 to about week 13. I think that stretch of games from the Raiders, the Lions, Chargers, Broncos, Saints, Giants, and Jets, I think that stretch of games will decide on how we play against Washington, because it is in Philadelphia and the Eagles play significantly better in Philadelphia, but I still have Washington winning this because I don't think that the Eagles will have.
And I think
I'm trying to be optimistic, and I still don't think that the
key
Eagles will
to
be
that
able to.
last game was the fact that Alex Smith could not move around the pocket, and we did not have a fast enough linebacker. Once like Jalen Hurts was able to make
And
it
we
past
pulled out Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, like once Jalen Hurts was able to slip past our line, we did not have a fast enough linebacker to be able to keep up with him. And I think Jamin Davis will be able to pick up Jalen Hurts whenever he runs.
All right. Who do you guys have? It was week 15, so on to week 16.
Week 16, we have the Dallas Cowboys. This is our game that's going to be after Christmas, and I think this is going to be another win for us. Like what I talked about previously, like, yeah, the Cowboys may be able to make it close with some Dak deep throws, but other than that, like, even if we have mediocre quarterback play, I still think we'll be able to beat them.
We have the Giants here, and this is the game I had us winning in this last 4-game stretch against all divisional opponents. And the only reason I see us beating the Giants here, again, I think this will be situational, depending on how the team is playing up to this point. And I always say that divisional games are a toss-up. One, it's hard to beat the same team 2 games in a single season, and divisional opponents are just always here or there. You don't really know going into the game. But I think the Eagles, if they're going to win a game in this Final Four, I think it'll be against the Giants because they are in Philadelphia. And the Giants usually can't beat us 2 games in a season, and I don't see that starting again this season. So I'm going to put this one down as a win. And then we play Washington again in week 17.
I honestly think that this game kind of depends on if we've like won the division or not. Because if we have, I think we might like possibly slack off, which it's possible. I think this game could be a toss-up, but I still think we're going to be able to win it.
I think Washington is going to win this one again. It's in Maryland.
Good old
FedEx.
Landover.
Yeah, it's in Landover. Like, I just don't see if the Eagles were to pull out one against Washington, surprisingly, I think it'd be in Philly, not in Washington. I hope I'm wrong, but I mean, I don't see Philly winning this one. And then who you guys have for the last week of the season, week 18, which is a new addition to this season.
And I think by this point we'll clinch the division, and I can see this. Like, I don't think we'll push the players as hard. I think it'll be kind of just a game to get in shape, but I think the Giants I think they'll win it. I think we'll drop 2 against.
So you have Washington winning the division, okay?
Well, if you look at all the teams in the division, we're the most well-rounded.
I can somewhat agree with that. But I think this division is a toss-up all around. I mean, because this division is so – last year, the division, like, it completely went downhill. It went from the Eagles and the Cowboys battling every year for the first place to all teams being awful. And so now that's just kind of destroying the like reputation of the division. But
I think we would have been like maybe a 9-7 or 10-6 team last year if we didn't have good old Dwayne Haskins, because like he literally lost us games. There's no question about it. He lost us games. So I just think like our defense I think is going to be top 5 this year, and we have great depth. I think it's going to be able to compel us to the top spot.
So before we talk a little bit more about that, let me just get the Eagles week 18. Excuse me. Eagles week 18 game is against Dallas, and this one's in Philly, and this one I think depends on a lot. One, who is healthy going into both these games? What is the situation? Are the Eagles fighting for a divisional spot? Are they fighting for a wild card? I don't think they will be. Are the Cowboys fighting for a division lead? Like, I think it'll all depend on what's going on. But overall, I think this is Washington's division to lose. I think Dallas might be, depending on how they play, could be trying to fight for that first place spot, and we could be coming in to play spoiler for them. I still don't think that'll be enough for us, though, even in Philly. Just looking at it, I think Dallas will beat us.
So what's the division?
What's the final record you have for Washington?
12-5.
12-5. Wow, I think that's a little. Wait, how do you end up 12-5? 17 games. I'm sorry, I'm lost. I was thinking that only added up to 16 for a sec. I don't know why. This whole new schedule is getting me crazy. I have the Eagles ending 7-10. But so I think this division, I think it's the Washington's division to lose. Overall, like you said, I think they're the most well-rounded team. Their quarterback play, in my opinion, is the most sketchy thing for the team, because the quarterback is such a vital position in the game, clearly. So I think that depending on how your quarterbacks play will decide for you. And I think another big thing for you is how will your defense work out? Because yes, you have a good defensive line. You have an amazing defensive line. Your linebackers have something to prove because of the fact that they're still young. And then your secondary, is a little iffy. So if your defensive line gets pinned down for a game or two, I think that can really hurt you guys, because if an offensive line can hold on to your defensive line for a couple seconds, and you have a quarterback that can get the ball out of their hands quick, like a Tom Brady or an Aaron Rodgers, who can get the ball off in less than 2 seconds and dot you guys up, I think that'll really be the downfall of you guys. And so I think that'll really decipher the division for you guys. I think the Giants have a pretty good chance because I think they're going into the season with a pretty decent offense in Kenny Golladay, Saquon Barkley, who I love as a player and a person. He's amazing. He's insane. He's an animal. Okay. I mean, that man is insane. If he can stay healthy through the season, he is a dual threat coming out of the backfield and running the ball. Daniel Jones just has to be mediocre at best in order to get the ball in the right place for Kenny Golladay or someone to get to it. I think if he plays semi well, the Giants could win the division. Dallas, if Zeke forgets about last season and can go back to the way he played his rookie season with Dak, or just if he can just play semi okay with Tony Pollard on his back end to replace him a couple times, the Cowboys could easily win this division. And if everything just goes all wrong, I mean, the one thing I was just saying about the Eagles is our offense looks a lot better than what it did going into the draft. I think we had a semi-okay draft. We drafted Devonta Smith, who is a Heisman winner, which, like I said, looking at the stats, he looks like he's going to be amazing. It just scares me about the way the Eagles have injuries and everything, so I don't know how well he will do injury-wise, and that's what scares me about drafting him. So looking at the stats, he looks like he's going to be a great player in the NFL. So you have Devonta Smith, Jalen Reagor, another former first rounder who's got speed, Travis Fulgham, who popped off in those last 4 games and fell off because Alshon Jeffrey came back. So Miles Sanders, who is going crazy, and we just fixed our entire running back situation. We have Miles Sanders, who is clearly going to be the 1 and 2 down back. You got Jordan Howard for a good power back, and Kerryon Johnson can catch passes out of the backfield. We have the most complete running back group that we've had in years since like Deuce and Brian Westbrook and them. So, I mean, I think that'll help us. And then Jalen Hurts, I think he can be a serviceable quarterback. I don't think he's a second-year starter, especially after only playing 4 games last season. I don't think he's a second-year starter, but we'll see how that plays out. And then I think the defense will definitely be the sketchiest part. Our defensive line is going to have to play out of their minds in order for us to not get blown out of the water every single game, because our secondary is nothing to be proud of. You have Darius Slay, and our next best outside corner is looking to be Zech McPherson, who isn't built like an outside corner. So that is what scares me. My dad just read off a stat to me that said, per Pro Football Focus, Avonte Maddox, who is the second corner, who is opposite of Darius Slay on the outside, was the 121st ranked outside corner in the league out of 121 eligible humans.
That's not good at all.
They're gonna be relying on either one, Josiah Scott, who was a 4th rounder out of Michigan State and played in Jacksonville last year, or Zech McPherson, who's a 4th rounder out of Texas Tech. And Texas Tech gave up like 60-point games every week in this past season. So we're not really looking at a lot of great options on the outside. So our front 7 is really going to have to step it up in order for us to have a good season this season.
Yeah, but one thing you were saying about the Washington secondary, I think you're not giving them enough credit. If you look at
I think they're serviceable.
It's serviceable, and it's pretty good if you look at all the pieces. Free safety, we just added Bobby McCain. We have Jeremy Reeves. We have Cam Curl, who you can argue probably should have been in top 5 for defensive rookie of the year, because if you look at the stats, it held up. And if you look at our strong safeties, you have Landon Collins, Cameron Curl as well. We have decent depth who we can rotate in and keep them fresh. And if you look at our cornerbacks, we have Ronald Darby and Kendall Fuller and Jimmy Moreland, who were serviceable. Kendall Fuller was, I think he probably should have deserved to be a Pro Bowler if he wasn't. And if you look at Jimmy Moreland and Ronald Darby, those were pretty good, serviceable guys. And we added William Jackson III, and we added Benjamin St. Just. Like, we're going to be able to keep our defense fresh. It's not like these other defenses, say like the Eagles, who you're going to be really thin and struggling at the cornerback position. And not every play they're going to get tested, which is very helpful to have that defensive line. So I think we'll be able to be pretty good enough. But I do think the success of our team does come down to the offense. Yes, I had us going 12-5, but I can see that varying from 9-8 to 10-7, 11-6, around that to 12-5. I think 12-5 or possibly 13-4 is the max. But I have faith in Ryan Fitzpatrick because we've been able to add good pieces to our offensive line in depth, which is going to allow us to keep them fresh, like on the defense. And one thing about Ryan Fitzpatrick is we gave him a lot of options. We have Cam Sims, Adam Humphries, Logan Thomas as our tight end. We also have Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, and in the backfield we have a great third down back in J.D. McKissick. And this is a lofty prediction, but somebody who can turn out to be like an Alvin Kamara and Antonio Gibson, who's that really great dual threat. Our only questionable position, I'd say, is tight end. Because after Logan Thomas, you're banking on the fact that that guy from Chile is going to be able to transfer his athletic gifts into the position. And the guy we drafted, he's going to be a blocking tight end. But I do have a lot of faith in this team. Like, this is the most faith I've had in a very long time. I think we can be very good, and we're a very young team. So the only way to go is up at this point because we've hit some low of lows.
I think Kendall Fuller is probably your top corner. Ronald Darby, he has to stay healthy. That is your biggest thing. He's had issues with injuries. If he can stay healthy, then you're right. He is serviceable. And that's all you need with your defensive line. It's just serviceable. So that's another reason why I think you guys have the division and it's yours to lose. But also, the NFC East hasn't had a repeat division winner since 02 to 04 when the Eagles won 3 years in a row. I don't see, with the questions going around the division, I do not see that happening for a couple years still. I
can see that streak ending because if you if you look at it, I think the reason why it's going to end is because the division is still so questionable. Because if you look at it, the only team you could say is pretty decent all around is Washington, but we still have questions. Because if you look at the Giants, the questions are the defense and the offensive line, and is Daniel Jones able to play well, keep his turnover numbers down, and the offensive line, you got to be able to protect Saquon, considering this could be a pivotal year. Because if he gets injured 2 years in a row, you could push him past the point of no return.
3 years in a row. 3 years in a row. He injured his ankle that 1 year, and then he tore his ACL.
The Cowboys, offensive line and defense, the Eagles, your secondary, and there's a lot of question marks around your wide receivers, and same thing with the quarterback play. But
I think for the Eagles, the secondary is no doubt the biggest problem. The linebackers are more questionable. Linebackers are more questionable than the wide receivers. I think the wide receivers have a lot to prove, and I think they can fix. I think our wide receivers went from not worst to first, but they went from worst to a lot better. And that's
last to maybe 20th.
Hey, I mean, only way to go is up when you're last. So I think, but I mean, Travis Fulgham looks like he can be a good outside wide receiver from ODU and went to Broad Run, actually.
He just needs a decent person opposite of him, because they already have Dallas Goedert, which is going to tie down the linebackers or another cornerback in the coverage packages. You just need somebody like Devonta Smith or somebody else to step up to be able to take the pressure off of him.
Injuries will also be a big factor, because we really don't. The Eagles suffer from injuries every year, and our wide receiver depth is not very good. We have Greg Ward after. That's about it, Greg Ward.
And neither is your tight end depth, for that matter.
Our tight end depth isn't that good either. I want to see them re-sign Richard Rodgers. Richard Rodgers is a really good – he played amazing for the Eagles last season when Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz were trading off who was getting injured. I mean, he had a couple really clutch catches, and I'd like to see them bring him back on maybe like a veteran minimum.
And having multiple good tight ends has been shown to be a nightmare for defenses, because – not often do teams have two linebackers that can cover them. And if you put a cornerback on them, then he's going to
get outmatched.
Because I know this is possibly a bad example, but if one of the years we had Vernon Davis, we had Niles Paul and Jordan Reed, who are all playing very well, and we were able to like stay in games, even though our team all around was horrible because we had 3 great tight ends, and that is like a way. Like if you don't have the best wide receivers,
I think
having multiple good tight ends is a really good way to get your pass game going.
I think the analogy you're looking there for the tight end, that I think the analogy you were looking for was Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez. No tight end group.
I was thinking of it, but I wasn't going to say it because
look, Aaron
Mr.
Hernandez. We know what happened with Aaron Hernandez, but like you can't doubt the play that he had when he was in the league, especially with Rob Gronkowski. Like that's still the best tight end duo that there was and probably will be for a long time because it's hard to pay 2 really good tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean you can't unless, and the only reason that was possible was because Tom Brady is willing to take pay cuts so that the rest of the team, he's getting paid $25 million and he's the GOAT. Like Dak Prescott is getting paid $40 million a year and he's done nothing.
And they need a lot of other pieces.
And then they wonder why they can't do anything because they're paying Dak Prescott $40 million a year. They're paying Amari Cooper $20 million a year.
Yeah.
And I believe Ezekiel Elliott is getting paid $15 million a year.
That's why they're such a bad team, is because they can't pay their offensive line anymore, which they thought was going to be a guarantee every single year. But Father Time is undefeated, and their defense, oh my gosh, like you saw like the little pieces that were able to make them serviceable, like people like Orlando Scandrick, like they're in some, and considering the cap has been lowered, they're in some trouble.
Yeah, so let me just Ezekiel, they're spending about $70 million on their top 3 players. Yeah, and that is why they're in trouble.
Speaking of Aaron Hernandez, I know this is a weird segue, but Tim Tebow was signed and he's going to be wearing 85. And the last Florida tight end to wear 85 was Aaron Hernandez.
Oh, well, that's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, it's kind of awkward, just a little bit.
Yeah, so Zeke is getting paid $15 million a year. So that's $75 million for their top 3 players. When CeeDee Lamb comes up on his contract here, they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, they might. There's a possibility of him losing, and Michael Parsons as well. Like,
yeah, they're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Like those contracts are going to go away because
Amari. No one wants to. No one's going to want that. No one's going to want those deals. And so the Cowboys are in the worst win now state that I've ever seen. Like, because they don't have a team that is built to win now. And they are in cap trouble because even with the cap rising, that just means players are going to ask for more money. So yeah, the Cowboys are, and unless they win in the next 3 years, if they don't win in the next 3 years, they're done.
Yeah, them having to shell out all those huge contracts is allow what those little players and those pieces you need, like Orlando Scandrick, that are the serviceable guys on your defense. Like you need role players to be able to win in this league, and they don't have them anymore. Like usually you should like maybe around 2-3 big contracts, but like the Cowboys, they're in some really deep trouble and they can't just keep drafting because eventually you're gonna have to pay these guys. If they turn out great, you're gonna have to pay them a lot of money, which you might not be able to have.
So with that is our season predictions. Do you have anything else to add before we get out of here?
No, I think this season could be very interesting.
It will be.
Yeah, like will the Bucs be able to keep it up? Because yes, they played great last year, but
they didn't lose a single starter.
Yeah, no.
So
but all their pieces are older. It literally could take one bad injury to unravel that team because those older players may have to start picking up the slack, and that may lead to injuries.
I just can't wait for September. That's for dang sure. I just want to watch some football. But I think with that, we are going to go on and get out of here. Go ahead, follow our Instagram at BLInTheDC, and follow me at TKunick10. Follow Jacob at JAlvarez639. You guys can DM us, can email us at BLInTheDC@gmail.com. Give us questions to put on here, give us comments to put on here, anything that you guys want to see on here and that we'll talk about. With that, I think we are going to get out of here, and we will see you guys again next week. 2 more coming out next week, and we will see you guys then. See ya.